After signing Talanoa, Hufanga, and Greenlaw, do the Denver Broncos have the best defense in the NFL, fellas?
I mean, I think so. On paper, they have the best defense in the NFL. Now, on paper means these guys have to stay healthy. And that is the big question mark. It's why you kind of get a little discount on these guys. It's why the market wasn't nearly as hot for them as it would have been, considering Talanoa Hufanga is an all-pro and, Greenlaw is a star. If you didn't have that question mark with those guys, they're probably not Broncos right now.
No.
True. But because of that, they've been able to be Broncos. And now, if the stars align, which, by the way, you ever want to win a championship, the stars have to align. Yeah. If the stars align, the Denver Broncos have the best defense in the NFL. And that also, because every time I say this, the Eagles. The Eagles defense just got dismantled. Now, they still have a lot of their core big pieces, and they're still going to have a great defense. But I think the Broncos have a real chance to surpass them if everything lines up perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, they're very much in the running. As a baseline, I don't think you'll find anybody out there who says they're not one of the 5 best defenses. Mike Clay puts out his projections. We talked about those a little bit closer to the season, but he put out the first round after the first wave of free agency, and he has the Broncos 3rd, which is a pretty great place to be. Yeah. So there's obviously a case to be number 1. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any teams I would say they are absolutely better on defense than the Broncos. There's just kind of that tier in the top where you're just Steelers have a pretty good defense. He has the Patriots number 1, which is interesting, but with all the upgrades they've made, that secondary they've put together, they add defensive linemen. I don't know. I mean, there's certainly no team in the NFL I'd look at and say that's a better defense than the Broncos.
Yeah, give me a break with the Patriots being number 1. Do they have defensive player of the year?
They do not. Only one team has that.
Only one. And that's the Denver Broncos, right? Yes. And so help me out here. I actually think that's disrespectful putting them 3rd right now, wow. Mike Clay, because the Broncos had the 3rd best defense in the NFL last year, gave up 18.3 points per game, which was the 3rd best in the NFL. Can you guys help me out here? How many starters did the Broncos lose on defense from last year to this year?
0.
0.
I mean, Barton. But then you upgraded there.
Sure.
He did start.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so they massively upgraded at the one position they lost a starter. Mm-hmm. And then they replaced another starter in PJ Locke, who's now going to be a backup for them with a first-team All-Pro. So the Broncos had the 3rd best defense last year, and they just massively upgraded at 2 spots and didn't lose a single player that they're going to miss.
Let's also put it this way. Who had the best pass rush in the NFL last year?
The Denver Broncos.
Did any of those players leave?
No.
Now, who has the best secondary in the NFL?
The Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm. Very arguably the Denver Broncos. It's a Russian cover league.
Yep.
I think that's an easy decision.
So out of 9 positions, because are the only spots that don't fit into the secondary and the pass rush the 2 inside linebackers, essentially, pretty much?
Yeah.
So out of 9 positions, you have the best in the NFL in terms of groups.
Yeah.
And then the other 2 positions, one is a guy that's going to get you 175 tackles a year with Alex Singleton. And the other is a guy that when he's healthy, he is one of the best inside linebackers in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And for what it's worth, again, Mike Clay would say the best part of the Broncos defense is their linebackers.
Wow.
So, just for
Does that include outside, though?
Nope. No,
he says the best part is the inside backers?
He actually says the edge rushers are the worst part. Which again, I get that Nick Bonito, great season, really good player. Jonathan Cooper, good player, starter in the NFL, but compared to Pat Surtain, Riley Moss, I kind of see where he's coming from. But I mean, that's kind of the conversation we had yesterday, which is what is the weakness? If you got to pick something, I guess you got to pick something.
Let me spin zone this. If the edge rushers, which helped lead this team to leading the league in sacks last year, are the weakness of this defense, then they're the best defense in the NFL.
100%. And when you look at him and you say Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, I think Nick Bonito finally got some national recognition this past year. But some people still might say outside of Colorado, they might say okay, yeah, maybe not the best in the NFL. Nick Bonito had the 3rd most sacks in the NFL. He was in the conversation to be a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. He had 2 touchdowns from big-time plays. But then you look at their backups. Jonah Ellis, guys, was the youngest player in the NFL to have 5 or more sacks last year. Ever?
I think it was ever.
Wow.
Oh, was it?
21 years old. He had 5 sacks. And then Dondre Tillman has 5 sacks as well. And that's your 4th, 5th guy in the rotation right there, which is just insane. And now the Broncos also bring back Justin Strnad, who, by the way, started more than half the games last year. He had 3 sacks himself, almost 100 tackles himself. So not only is the starting unit
in
really
2024.
good in 2024, 21 years old. I mean, how many more people in history, though, have had more than 5 sacks being younger than 21?
Well, it's pretty rare to go to the NFL at 21.
Yeah.
So that's why when I saw that stat, I just assumed it was ever.
Yeah, exactly. It's very fair. They've got pretty much the exact same coaching staff returning on the defensive side of the ball, starting with Vance Joseph. So it would be a disappointment. It's not fair to set the bar as they have to be the best defense in the NFL, or it's a disappointment. But it would be a disappointment from inside the organization to outside the organization if the Broncos aren't a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
Like, where do we put that bar that it's disappointing if they don't hit?
It all just ends up mattering on results. If they're 5th and the Broncos win 11 games, no one's complaining.
Yeah.
If they're 6th and the Broncos win 9 games, everyone's complaining.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, a lot of disrespect for Amobi Okoye, who in 2007 for the Houston Texans had 5.5 sacks as a 20-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
How could you
actually
forget
crazy.
Amobi? Yeah.
couldn't even drink. And he was taking
And I'm
down
sure he never
quarterbacks
did.
in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, like, if you're not a top 5 defense, it'll be disappointing. And honestly, if you're not a top 3 defense, again, like right now, the hype is probably at the highest because all of this is like new and we just saw what the Broncos did last year, add these guys. And maybe in like a couple months, you think about it again, it's like, you know what, we should be more reasonable here. Maybe if you finish 3rd, you shouldn't be disappointed. But as it stands today, it feels like 3rd would be disappointing. Because again, it's hype season. This is when, like we talked yesterday, 15-2 is on the table if you patch a couple spots on offense. Just,
You know what's crazy, though, is this is before the draft. What if the Broncos do the unthinkable, and that's use a 1st-round pick on a defensive player?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Ashton Genty's gone, Colston Loveland's gone, and the best guy is a safety.
Interior rusher.
It is an interior rusher. What if that happens? What are we talking about then?
I don't know. It would be a great situation for that young player to come into.
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, that's to me what made the 2015 defense so special is no one had to do anything beyond what they were being asked to do.
Yeah.
And that sounds simple, but it's really not, because all it takes is one weakness on the defense and everyone starts pulling that way to try and make up for that. When everyone can just do exactly what their job is on every play, you get defenses like 2015.
Yeah. And when Pat's job is just to like, nobody throws to the left side of the field.
Yep.
That's a pretty good starting point. Makes a lot of people's jobs easier.
And when Charvarius Ward with the 49ers was playing at the same time as Hufanga 8, because Charvarius Ward, very good cornerback. I think he just got a massive contract on the open market as well. When he was playing, then that just allowed Hufanga to really be a free safety and roam the field. Now he's going to have that every single game when Pat Surtain is on the field. He's just going to be able to roam and get the interceptions, get the sacks. Vance Joseph is going to be able to use him anywhere. I think Pat Surtain is going to continue to help unlock Hufanga.
It's such a great point. I mean, we talked about his instincts. Talanoa Hufanga, maybe his instincts are his best single characteristic.
My spider senses are starting to tingle.
And now he just basically gets to ignore one side of the field.
Yeah.
And so his instincts only have to cover half the field, and he's going to be really, really special at that.
And then let's say that quarterbacks get a little worried about Hufanga, then they've got to go to the other side, which is Pat
They're
Surtain.
not doing that.
So then help Pat Surtain, defensive player of the year, get it twice right now. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It is very crazy.
It is crazy.
Congratulations
This is where
to
you
Vance
knock
Joseph
on wood
on a great week.
Hope for health and
Yep.
just
Health.
that this all plays out the way it looks like it should.
Yep. And the Broncos did sign 2 guys with injury concerns, but in reality in the NFL, everyone has to stay healthy. It's not just the guys that are injury prone or not. So Broncos, like you said, did get discounts on them too.
And I just hate this word injury prone, especially for Dre Greenlaw. He's had one big injury. That doesn't make you injury prone. It just means you had an injury.
He was so fired up for that Super Bowl and just jumping around, and
That's so sad.
It's so sad.
Well, and he said like he had felt his Achilles for like a few weeks and like knew something was wrong there. And that's why like there's that clip of it where Fred Warner's just like, oh no, because he knows immediately, because it's like we all knew this was sore, and then he goes down, you're like, But that's a really dark way to take this
It
conversation.
is a crazy thing, though. I've heard that from a kicker who was at CU when I was there. He was like, yeah, I went to the trainers 2 weeks before I tore it and was just like, my Achilles is killing me. And they were just like, there's nothing you can really do but stretch.
No.
And so he just felt like it was a ticking time bomb every day, and then went
He
off.
was right. Wow.
Anyways,
this
Broncos have the best defense in the
Broncos
NFL.
defense is a ticking time bomb for AFC quarterbacks. So we all agree it's the best defense in the NFL. Let us know if you agree.
Case closed.